Cincinnati has a great reputation for being affordable, and that's why so many people are looking to move to the area. But what a lot of people don't realize is that some of our top neighborhoods have become kind of like mini luxury markets, and they're not always worth what you're paying for. That's why in this video, I'm breaking down 5 different neighborhoods that locals are quietly admitting like, hey, those are overpriced. And that includes where the price tags have completely outpaced the actual lifestyle value, and why many buyers end up house poor for the zip code. Hey everyone, my name is Eric. If you are new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button to join the Sztanyo clanyo. I am a local resident here. I've lived here for my whole life, basically. I invest here. I'm raising my family here. So I truly understand these neighborhoods and want to be able to help my viewers and my clients understand where they can get the most value for these different neighborhoods and not just get sucked into the different marketing schemes or the different hype around certain names around town. So let's dive into it. And we're gonna go ahead and begin with one of Cincinnati's most recognizable and priciest East Side neighborhoods, Hyde Park. All right, let's pop over here on Redfin and take a look at some of the stats here on Hyde Park. Now, this is a pretty competitive neighborhood. There's no question, it is beautiful, it is charming. There's a lot to like about Hyde Park. However, it's also pretty expensive. Redfin has the median sale price in Hyde Park at $550,000, and that is up 12.2% over the last year. And just in comparison, the median housing price in all of Cincinnati is $275,000. Okay, so you're looking at double the median price in Hyde Park versus the rest of the Cincinnati housing market. Okay, in terms of average price per square foot, in some recent data, that was as high as $326 per square foot. And this month it's looking at $266, and that's down a little bit year over year. But again, still the average in Cincinnati is about $183. So you're looking at a lot higher average price per square foot in Hyde Park compared to the rest of the city. Now, most homes in Hyde Park are going to be built between the 1920s and 1950s. So you're dealing with older mechanicals, you're dealing with smaller lots, you're dealing with difficult parking as well. Inventory does stay tight, and renovated listings are often driven by bidding wars. So, you're going to be in those multiple offers. It's going to be a little bit harder if you're finding one of those properties that has been updated and is in great condition. Sometimes just because of the hype and the prestige of the area, you're still in those multiple offers, even if the upgrades are, just so-so or only surface level. Now, just kind of looking at this median sale price, you can see how it has jumped over year, kind of in this 3-year span, where it's at about $550 right now as of September 2025. And you're looking at this sale to list price. Like I said, it's 99.9%. What does that mean? It means, people are getting exactly what they're listing for. And this is an average out, right? So a lot of homes are going over list price in Hyde Park because it is so competitive. But here's a look at some of the properties, kind of what you're looking at that is out there. Again, very appealing, very charming. Hyde Park really sells the idea of walkability a lot more than that tangible value. People love being around that Hyde Park Square and the boutique shops and the Grater's ice cream and all that's right there in the square itself. You'll see a lot of people exercising in Hyde Park as well. It is a very highly walkable neighborhood. And just to orient you guys in town here, I've pulled up the map just so you can kind of feel, again, it's kind of east side, just east of Interstate 71. You're just a few miles from downtown. And here's that Hyde Park Square I'm mentioning. It's really beautiful, beautiful fountain down here. And you'll see a lot of local gatherings, a lot of community events that are happening down here in the square on a regular basis. But again, the problem here is you're paying for the hype. You're paying for the prestige and the zip code and the lifestyle and the branding and all that comes with it. So you're paying a little extra for the proximity to Hyde Park, for these boutique shops, for the name recognition. Many of these homes are still going to need major updates. They've got outdated wiring or outdated HVAC systems or insulation that's really poor. A lot of these hidden costs that pop up to you after closing. Let's just kind of look at one of these just as an example. Now, this is a multifamily home, 6 bedrooms, 2 bath, 2921 square feet. The curb appeal, it's okay. It's kind of cute. But just looking at this property, I want to show you a few things. Again, this is a multifamily, so could use some updating with the flooring. You've got some older tile right here. Nothing super fancy or special here in and of itself. And the question is, are you going to be able to get the rents to cover this? A kitchen that probably hasn't been updated in a while. These cabinets are quite old. There is a counter that's put on top. There's some stainless appliances for a tenant. But I want to show you here what some of these homes look like in the basement. Again, this tile, right? This tile's been out there for a while. You can get by with it, but this is what a lot of the homes in Hyde Park might actually look like. It's a multifamily. The hardwood floors are beautiful. You're gonna have this attic space here on the third level of the home. This can be extra living space, but also you need to realize, again, a lot of these homes are not insulated very well. And so in the summertime, they are blazing hot. If there is any HVAC that's run up to these third floors, oftentimes it just does not do the trick. And so you're gonna need to potentially put in a mini split here, or you're going to need to put in air window units for the AC just to try to keep up and make this a little bit more of a living space. And I want to show you this photo right here. This is a very common basement. Again, this home was built, I think, in 1910. So you can kind of see the stone foundation that's around. When you have heavy rains, it's very likely that a home like this could see water in the basement. It's not really tall enough down here where you can finish this in any kind of way to make it usable living space. You're gonna have your laundry down here. You might be able to get some storage, and you might put it up on pallets to keep it dry in case water does come in. You know, you're gonna have access to the mechanicals and things like that in the basement, but this is kind of what we're talking about with homes that are, 50, 70, 90, 100 plus years old, is you might be dealing with some of these older things in the basement. You got to keep an eye on these walls. If these are not, if the water has not been drained properly away from the homes, a lot of times you can get bowing in these walls, and you're going to feel that throughout the entire house where it's not level all the way throughout. So that's the kind of thing you can find in these homes. Again, that home is for $550. That's the median sale price. If you've got something that's updated, that's really nice, you're going to easily be paying $800, $900, $1 million or more. So it's not that you won't enjoy the home, you won't enjoy the neighborhood. You could very, very much enjoy the neighborhood. It's just that, again, this average multifamily home is twice the median price as the average median in all of Cincinnati. So you're paying a little bit more for the brand there in Hyde Park. So when I talk to a lot of families who are looking to move here, and this happens all the time, I've got a couple who's moving here from Nashville, and they're like, we want the charming houses. We love the architecture in Cincinnati. We want something old with character. And then I show them what $550 can get in Hyde Park. They're kind of like, I don't know if I exactly want that. Or, maybe I'll think, somewhere else, or maybe something a little bit less charming. So once I show them what $550 in Hyde Park gets, they, often realize that they could get something newer, something bigger, something nicer that's 10 or 15 minutes away. If you're looking around Hyde Park and you still want some of that walkability, you still want that access to downtown, but you want your money to spread a little bit further, I might suggest looking at Pleasant Ridge, just a little bit north, maybe even Norwood as well, or even Evanston and in East Walnut Hills down here just to the west of Hyde Park. Those are the other areas you might want to check out where you might not have to pay that full steep price tag for the prestige of that community. All right, that's gonna bring us to our second neighborhood, which is Mount Lookout. So if Hyde Park is one of those east side neighborhoods that everyone recognizes, Mount Lookout is its neighbor just to the east. It's a little bit quieter. It's also on a hilltop. It's kind of like a little bit of a twin to Hyde Park, and it's really just as expensive. So let's kind of take a look here so you guys can see where we're at. Here is Mount Lookout on the map. We're just literally going right next door from Hyde Park to Mount Lookout. And so a lot of those things that people like about Hyde Park in terms of the walkability, in terms of the location in town, also being close to Alt Park, which is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I love that here in Mount Lookout. You've also got, right in this downtown area, you've got some great little restaurants, Delwood, Cloud9 Sushi. I really enjoy. There's a couple sushi places that I like. You've got also Delwood's this great kind of fried chicken restaurant place, by the way. Very, very good. Highly recommend, and burgers. But let's take a look at the stats a little bit here for Mount Lookout. You're looking at a median sales price of $615,000. Now that hit as high as $650 this year, but it is down a little bit. Again, you're comparing that to citywide, which is $275. The median sale price per square foot in Mount Lookout is about $239 a square foot. Now going through here and looking at the sale to list price, again, you're looking at in September 101.6. So you're getting over list price for the sales here in Mount Lookout. Very highly competitive, a lot of demand here for these homes. Now, in terms of these homes, average home size is going to be around 2,000 to 2,400 per square foot, meaning you're often, again, paying luxury level pricing for somewhat of these mid-size homes. Many of these homes are going to be older colonials or 1960s builds. They're going to have updates limited to cosmetics and not a lot of major systems might be updated in a lot of these. You're also going to see higher property taxes here in Mount Lookout. And there's a lot of these homes are actually on steep hills, and that's going to add to the cost of ownership over time without adding a whole lot of real world livability. All right, so again, why are these homes here a little bit overpriced as we kind of scroll down and look at these? Now again, Mount Lookout is beautiful, but much of its premium is it's emotional, it's built on reputation, and really its connection to Hyde Park being right there next to Hyde Park. But some of these Tudors they're lovely, right? But this is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house for $500,000 that was sold in September of 25. You're paying for that alt park access. You're paying for the tree-lined streets, the schools that are nearby, not necessarily newer or larger homes. Again, here's one right here that's on a hill. If you kind of take a look at this, you see the steps going up to this. This sold for $460,000 in September of 2025. And again, tons of charm, right? Tons of character, but I guarantee you these windows are not insulated well, right? This flooring is older and needs to be updated. It's cute, it's charming, but you're kind of walking into a bit of a project with a home like this. But you do have, these beautiful hardwood floors, they just got to be redone, right? So you're going to find homes like this with steep driveways that's going to have older construction. Again, there's going to be limited parking. These are pretty common trade-offs that you're getting here in Mount Lookout, similar to Hyde Park. And they don't always just show up with what you're seeing on the listings themselves. Oftentimes when you're scrolling online, you see the views, you see the park, but few people really realize how much of the price is the location inflation of what you're paying here. It's not necessarily build quality or extra square footage that you're getting. So just kind of zooming out here on the map, again, for what you're paying in Mount Lookout, you could definitely get something newer, something bigger, something that's been updated, in nearby Anderson Township here or Mount Washington as well, without the steep price tag of buying in Mount Lookout. But if you're someone who just loves the Tudors, right? Or you want something like this one's 5-bed, 4-bath, 3,300 square feet. It's $1 million, which it's a beautiful looking home. I love the architecture on this as well. Just know going in that you're paying extra for the Mount Lookout, for the beauty, for the charm, than what you could get in other nearby areas. All right, next on the list, neighborhood number 3 is going to be Oakley. Now, I really like Oakley. I like where it's at in the city, but you're gonna kind of see a pattern here around this east side corridor, around Hyde Park. We've looked at Mount Lookout. We're also gonna look at Oakley because a lot of people are gonna look at this and they're gonna be willing to stretch their budget and pay a little bit over for maybe what the house is worth because it's kind of like Hyde Park, right? There's a lot of amenities and a lot of things to like here. And it's true, there has been a ton of development here, kind of around, Crossroads Church, but you've got Mad Tree Brewing here as well. A lot of different things have happened here in Oakley in terms of development in the past few years. So just kind of looking at the street view here is Crossroads Church, which is kind of the big mega church in town. And a lot of things have been built up around that because so many people are in and out of there every single week. You've got different restaurants, a lot of different retail that has happened in and around this area. A lot of new development has bumped up the pricing here in Oakley. So let's take a look at the trends and the housing market here in Oakley. Just a few years ago, you're looking at a median price of around $330, something like that. And as of September 2025, you're looking at $420,000. That's up 9% compared to last year. And the median sale price per square foot in Oakley is $255. Now, again, compare that to Cincinnati as a whole, which is closer to like $187 per square foot. So it is down a little bit from last year in terms of demand coming down, but still much higher than a lot of the areas around town. Now, again, the typical homes here, a lot of them are post-war bungalows or 1940s and 1950s builds. They're averaging around 1,200 to 1,600 square feet. I often find a lot of young professionals or a lot of young families are targeting Oakley because, again, quick access to downtown Cincinnati, a little bit smaller houses, not quite as expensive as Hyde Park or Mount Lookout, but a really great location within the city. But inventory definitely remains very competitive here. Updated homes, again, are gonna draw multiple offers here, even when they're smaller or they lack a lot of parking, kind of like these other areas in Hyde Park and Mount Lookout that we've talked about. Okay, so why is it overpriced? Well, again, Oakley's lifestyle premium has kind of outpaced a little bit of its tangible value. You're paying for proximity to shops, you're paying for restaurants, you're paying for those breweries that have come in like Mad Tree Brewery, and you're not necessarily getting a better home out of it. You know, a lot of these properties may have been cosmetically flipped. We can kind of look at this one right here. And so that means you might get new paint and fixtures, but you might also get older plumbing. You might have older electrical. You might have, a new roof bill that's coming and staring you down the pipe here. And that could be a $15,000, $20,000, or $25,000 expense. So buyers often assume that Oakley is kind of the younger, the hipper version of Hyde Park, but the appreciation curve may have already peaked here. So you can get a feel for this property as we're kind of looking through the photos. Again, it's cute. It's nothing crazy. Like, these are not granite countertops. These are laminate countertops. Wood floors are nice. Updated lighting goes a long way. This is a tile ceiling. Here, you've got some updated appliances. And again, here's another good example of what I'm talking about upstairs, where these homes are not really well insulated. You've got baseboard heating. And right here in the window, right, you're seeing that air unit, because more than likely it's going to get really hot up here. And so, but you're using this as a bedroom. You probably have this bathroom up there as well. Here's another basement. You'll often see these in flipped homes as well, where, something's new and painted, but you can just see right here, this furnace, like, this is a beast. This is a very old beast of a furnace right here. The other thing that stands out to me in this photo right here is that you've got these extra additional poles that are holding up the main beam of the house. Again, it's an old house. The foundation, the beam is probably sagging a little bit, and they're putting these in for extra support in the house to make sure it's all, as even as possible. So we can keep going through here. They've painted the steps in the back. They've done some of the things to make it look nice, but again, this is an older property. Like, this fence is kind of nice. You got a little additional parking pad right here. But what you're getting for this house, this is a house built in 1910. It's 2,500, 51 square feet. And you might be looking at some additional expenses down the line when it's like, okay, you painted it, and you did some new appliances in the kitchen, but what am I looking at in terms of costs coming down the pipe because of this older home from 1910? That's just something you got to look out for, not only in Oakley, but in a lot of neighborhoods in Cincinnati. Something to be on the lookout for as you're shopping here in these neighborhoods. I mentioned that a lot of buyers are maybe young professionals, and it's kind of got the vibe of like, this is the younger, maybe hipper, maybe a little bit more accessible, friendly version of Hyde Park in terms of the price points being down. But compared to the city overall, you got to decide if what you're paying for is worth it. Now, I think Oakley overall, like, there have been a lot of new amenities come in. There's a lot of new walkable areas. In fact, we even had Homerama in Oakley this year. So there is a lot there. You just got to be careful on the pricing, especially with these older homes. Look out for parking, look out for these mechanicals, look out for these larger price tagged items that could come at you if you're not being careful how you're shopping. And I'll just make a quick plug, guys. This is why you want to work with someone who works with a lot of relocation experts, because I know these neighborhoods really well. Like I said, I've lived here for over 35 years, and especially I'm an investor as well. So I understand when somebody's done a cosmetic flip, I'm like, yeah, that's painted. I know it looks kind of good in the photos online, but when you get there, I'm like, that's going to cost you X, Y, and Z. So make sure you're working with an agent who understands these things, who knows what to look for in these older houses, or it could cost you thousands of dollars, literally. Give us a call, text or email us, guys. We would love to help you out as you're shopping in these different neighborhoods, especially when you're looking at these older houses. We don't want you to get in a bad situation where you've got a big bill coming because you just didn't see it coming. So I will say that the walkability, the energy, the development in Oakley, all these things are really attractive. They are really amazing. But if you're looking, again, for a little bit of a smaller price tag with nearby areas, again, you might want to check out Pleasant Ridge. You might want to check out Madisonville as well. And you might want to check out Norwood. You can get a lot of the same features for just a little bit less of price than what you're going to pay for that premium in Oakley. All right, let's keep going to our next neighborhood here. We're going to move a little bit west from Oakley over to the area of Clifton. So this is the area around University of Cincinnati. This is the area that has the Cincinnati Botanical Zoo. It's one of the most interesting, it's one of the most architecturally rich neighborhoods in all of Cincinnati, no question. But let's take a look at, is it overpriced or not? So here we are on the map. Again, here's the University of Cincinnati, just here on the south of it, in the area of the Heights and the Clifton Heights here. Clifton's going to be just a little bit to the north and just west of the zoo. This is also where some of the major employers of Cincinnati are. This entire area of Coreyville, where Cincinnati Children's Hospital is, where the VA hospital is, and different hospitals in this area. All right, so when you're looking at the housing market here in Clifton, you're looking at an average Clifton home of about $463,000. That's up about 5% year over year. Now, the median value is going to sit a little bit closer to $330,000, and that's why it's showing such a wide gap between renovated homes and a lot of student housing here in the area. You're going to see a lot of that in Clifton since it is sitting around the University of Cincinnati. Housing stock is really highly mixed. You're going to find everything from turn of the century Victorian to multifamily conversions and student apartments, and all that's going to be on the same block. So it's going to be a big diversity of housing options here in Clifton. Now, again, a lot of these homes are going to be 100 years plus. So you're going to find very charming homes, great curb appeal again, but all the same things we've talked about, where you might have some foundation issues, you might have a very old roof, you might have some electric issues, you might have very old plumbing, you might have asbestos in the house, you might have plaster walls, all these things that come with a 100-year-old home. And I will say that appreciation has kind of leveled off in Clifton here a little bit as you're seeing, inventory sit on the market a little bit longer, and some of that interest go towards some of those trendier neighborhoods on the east side. All right, again, so why is Clifton a little bit overpriced? Well, you're paying more for that location, that proximity to the University of Cincinnati, to the hospitals, even to downtown Cincinnati as well. But prices have been driven up by a lot of investors, right? And so people who are looking to buy that student housing have pushed some of this product up. A lot of times you're not getting a product that matches the pricing, like I said, because you might have all of these additional expenses besides just the home price if the property is not kept up well. And that said, here's a home that's really beautiful. Like I said, there's a lot of really interesting and unique architecture. This is 2,887 square feet. It went for $575,000. This was built in 1910 in Clifton's Gaslight District. And if you've never been there, it's really special. It's really cool. All these homes, a lot of artists like to live in this area. The Gaslight District is really cool. And you look at a property like this, and it is very, very charming, right? There is a lot of character to it. You understand why people might want to live in a home like this. Oftentimes you'll see a stained glass windows like this, or you might see some interesting architectural element like the beams here in the kitchen. And so very unique homes, very diverse homes here in Clifton, but again, older homes, right? When you've got something that is 115 years old, eventually that sewer pipe is going to wear down and break. And whether the person before you paid for it or you're going to get stuck with that large expense, it could happen. You just need to know going in that certainly can happen. So Clifton often looks really great from the street, big porches, big, huge canopy trees, amazing architecture. I've got a friend who's actually a real estate agent who bought a house in Clifton, and I looked at the photos. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is beautiful. And she's like, you have no idea the renovations. The roof alone was like $150,000 to do, because this is this really unique house. And who does that kind of roof anymore? Nobody does that kind of roof. So a huge, enormous expense, right? So you gotta be really careful. It is amazing from the street, but you've got to be really careful. If you're thinking of something else nearby where you still want to be close to the hospitals, you might want to think of North Side. You might also want to look at College Hill. I drove through College Hill recently and realized man, there's a lot of cool development here, and it's a lot less priced than what's going on in Clifton. You're still getting that walkability. You're still really close. In fact, let me show you where that's at real quick. All right, so again, here we are on the map, and here is Clifton right in this area. But if you just take Hamilton Avenue up a little bit north, you can get into North Side right here, which, there's a lot of really, really kind of cool restaurants in this area, kind of little walkable shops right here in North Side. Very eclectic kind of area of Cincinnati. A lot of people really enjoy this. And then just a little bit further north from North Side, up Hamilton Avenue, is College Hill. And kind of, again, same thing, seeing a lot of money and kind of new investment in restaurants going into this area. You've got a brewery right down here, Sleepy Bee Cafe. You've got some different restaurants, really cute kind of walkable area here in College Hill. So kind of the vibe and kind of the feel that you can get in Clifton, just at a lower price point in Northside and in College Hill. If you're looking for, those areas around UC, around the hospitals, then you might want to check out these two areas. All right, guys, before we get to that fifth neighborhood, I just want to take a minute and say thank you for watching. Really appreciate that. And I also want you guys to know I put together a free relocation guide for you to download, because I know that looking at all these neighborhoods, doing your research from afar and online, it's hard to piece it all together. So I put together a free relocation guide. My buyers love it. It's over 25 pages long, goes into a lot of these different neighborhoods and suburbs, kind of breaks down, you know, safety and schools and events and different things for these different communities. The QR code is on the screen. You can download that for free. I hope that is helpful for you. All right, back to our regular programming. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and bring up our last neighborhood here, which is Over the Rhine. Now, Over the Rhine is definitely one of my favorite neighborhoods in Cincinnati, but it's very polarizing, okay? A lot of development, a lot of money went into this and completely revitalized this neighborhood in the past several years, but it maybe has peaked. It's certainly not doing what it was doing like 5 or even 10 years ago. So let's take a look at some of the stats. Here we are downtown, just to kind of locate you. You're just north of downtown. This is where, by the way, like all of probably the finest dining, the best restaurants downtown in all of Cincinnati. Most of them exist down here. You've got Pep and Dolores. You've got Washington Park, which I absolutely love. You know, on Vine Street here, you've got Abigail Street and Bakersfield OTR. And just a block away, you've got Taglio, Gomez Salsa. Lots of fun and exciting things to do in OTR, lots of fun events, a lot of action and activity happening down there, the best restaurants, great boutique shops as well. So a lot of energy down there, but the question is, has it peaked? Well, let's take a look at some of these market stats here. So the median home price as of September 2025 was $301,000. That's actually up 14.4% compared to last year. Now, that's a huge leap from where it was over 10 years ago. Appreciation in this area has soared nearly 200% in 10 years, 200% in 10 years. Now, most of the homes are going to be historic rehabs or condos. You know, oftentimes you're going to find HOA fees between $350 and $500 a month, something like that. Parking is going to be very limited down in Over the Rhine. So most of these units rely on street or leased garage spaces. And even though there has been high demand, appreciation has really flattened in the last 2 years. It's kind of the novelty of Over the Rhine is wearing off a little bit, and there's more and more supply growing in nearby neighborhoods like Pendleton and the West End, where a lot of energy is happening because of the TLC stadium down there, and potentially even the new Cincinnati Arena could be on the west end of Cincinnati. All right, so why is it overpriced? Well, again, a lot of the prices down here in OTR have been fueled by hype, by redevelopment branding, not necessarily value per square foot. Buyers are going to be paying top dollar for the walkability, for the bars, for the restaurants, for the cultural scene, but often they're going to compromise on space, living space, and parking and everyday convenience. And again, I know I'm starting to sound like a little bit of a broken record on this, but many of these historic buildings are going to come with hidden costs. So you've got aging infrastructure. Oftentimes because these buildings are connected, you're going to have soundproofing issues. You might have you're going to have very, very strict renovation rules. So you got to be careful with what you are allowed to do in the area. One thing to watch out for is that property taxes and insurance for historic rehabs can be significantly higher than expected. And so you guys can see a lot of these properties are really beautiful. And it once was like really the next big thing. But I would say that energy has kind of like leveled off a little bit. So the market has kind of matured into where it's going to be at, kind of fully priced. And there's less room for appreciation and growth if you're looking to both live here or invest in Over the Rhine. So if you're a buyer and you're seeking that urban living, we've talked about a few other places that might be better for you from an entry point standpoint. So places like Walnut Hills, even Camp Washington or North Side. Obviously, it's hard to beat some of this architecture down here, right? It's hard to beat walking to Findlay Market and these different restaurants and bars in the cultural scene. But from a price standpoint, OTR is one of the greatest comeback stories, I would say, in terms of Cincinnati and its real estate. But if you're buying today, you're probably not getting in early enough anymore. Just know that if you're looking to move to OTR now, you're paying top dollar for the lifestyle that you're getting, not necessarily for future value or the upside on appreciation going forward. All right, so you're maybe out there and you're watching this video and you're like, Eric, why are you doing this? You're just making me sad. I wanted to move to Cincinnati because I heard it was affordable. Well, I've showed you some of these different areas because I'm trying to help you, right? I'm trying to help you save money because these areas that I just mentioned might be neighborhoods that are a little bit overpriced, but you can get something very similar, if not better, for a lot less money in these different neighborhoods. So let me kind of flip the table a little bit and show you some areas in the Cincinnati market where your dollar goes a long way and you're not sacrificing a lot on the lifestyle and all the different amenities you're getting. So let's get into these 5 neighborhoods right now. All right, so I'm gonna go a little bit more rapid fire here and give you 5 Cincinnati areas where your money truly stretches further without giving up on this community, on lifestyle and access. So first up here is Pleasant Ridge, and that median sales price is going to be only about $321,000. The dollar per square foot is going to be about $238. And so why does this neighborhood work? Well, it's one of the best balance points between walkability and affordability in the entire city. There's going to be tree-lined streets and renovated craftsman homes here that still come in well below some of those east side premiums that we've looked at. There's an active small business corridor along Montgomery Road. It gives you daily convenience without big city congestion. And you're roughly able to buy here for about half the price of Hyde Park. Yet, a lot of these homes have similar character and long-term appreciation potential. So that's our first neighborhood, which is Pleasant Ridge. Definitely a spot where your dollar can stretch a little bit further. So now let's keep going here and look at our second neighborhood, which is Madisonville, Ohio. All right, so median sale price of a home in Madisonville, about $298,000. Price per square foot, you're looking at about $208 per square foot here in Madisonville. All right, so why does it work? Again, there's ongoing redevelopment and new construction driving value without a lot of the overpricing happening here right now. It's 25 to 30% lower cost than Oakley for very comparable homes and commute times as well. You're seeing rapidly improving retail and a restaurant scene in Madisonville that's really growing. So that's giving a lot of East Side energy, but on a much more realistic budget. You see some of these houses here, $275,000, $230,000, $375,000 for this, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2280 square foot. This is a cute little house. And Madisonville has been, I would say, flipping over the last several years, but it's still early enough and there's still enough to do where you as a buyer could get in and really benefit from the appreciation. I think the long-term value that's going to come in this neighborhood. It has been coming. I think there's room for it to continue to grow based on its location and based on where the pricing is at right now. All right, next on the list is definitely one of my favorite neighborhoods in all of Cincinnati, Ohio, because it's where I bought my first home ever. Anderson Township on the east side of Cincinnati. I love this neighborhood. You get so much for your money out here in Anderson. All right, so let's take a look again here at what's going on in Anderson Township. You're getting a median home price of $400,000. That was up 12.5% since last year, but the median sale price per square foot is only $185 in Anderson Township. But with that, you get so much. So why it works for your dollar in Cincinnati is you're getting larger homes and you're getting top rated schools. The Forest Hill School District consistently ranks very highly, but it's a very, very moderate entry price here. So out here in Anderson, you're gonna find neighborhoods with very mature trees, safe neighborhoods, and you're gonna have stable resale demand, creating that long-term security for these homes out here. It's definitely not uncommon to be able to find homes that are 2,500 square foot plus homes for around $400,000. And so this is an excellent value for families. I mean, this home was sold for $335,000. It's a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath with 2,258 square feet here in Anderson Township. Great flat yard for the kids, swing set, trampoline, fenced in for the dog. You've got a deck, and you're in these great Forest Hill Schools district. So Anderson is consistently one of Hamilton County's most balanced price to lifestyle ratios. And like I said, Anderson has a little bit of a soft spot in my heart. My first house was there off of Clough Pike. I love that area. My wife and I invested in that area in the ministry we were involved in. But I say also, when you're looking at some of these top rated school districts in Cincinnati, whether that's Indian Hill, which is, maybe the priciest school district, or Marymount, Madeira, Sycamore schools as well, Loveland, Mason, Anderson on this east side of Cincinnati, I think is just a great sweet spot for value and getting really strong schools in terms of overall neighborhood in Cincinnati. So this is definitely one, if you're a young family, if you're looking for strong schools, definitely keep Anderson on your radar for access into the city, for a safe neighborhood, for a clean neighborhood, for great schools, all those things, and value for your dollar. Next on the list is Mount Washington, which actually neighbors Anderson Township to the west. So let's take a look at some of the details here. You're looking at a median home price of around $305,000, up 13.4% over last year. So it's very competitive. And again, your median sale price per square foot is at $189. All right, so why does Mount Washington work? Well, it's delivering on that east side charm. You've got the hills, you've got mature streets, you've got older architecture, but you're not having that steep price tag. You're looking at about a 10-minute commute to downtown, and Columbia Parkway access keeps it very, very practical. Again, entry costs are going to be maybe 30 to 40% lower than Mount Lookout for a very similar feel. So you're just nearby in Mount Washington. You've got homes that are very charming, very cute, but about 30 to 40% less. So homes like this one right here, $258,000 for a 4-bed, 1.5 bath Cape Cod. You're going to see a lot of these Cape Cods here in Mount Washington. These are going to be ideal for buyers who are wanting character homes with solid bones and long-term appreciation. But again, you can still get in for under $300,000 in Mount Washington. You see this home, 1-car garage, brick house, front porch, very charming. Nothing fancy, nothing too fancy, nothing too special, but very approachable for people who are looking for that home in Cincinnati on the budget and can still get in for under $300,000. All right, last on the list here is College Hill, coming in with a median sale price of only $226,000 with a median price per square foot of around $147 per square foot. Now, I mentioned this neighborhood a little bit earlier in the video, but this is really one of Cincinnati's true revival stories, centering around the renewed Hamilton Avenue corridor, which I showed you some of those, a little bit of those restaurants and shops popping up on that corridor right now. Prices are still below the city median, offering strong value for first-time home buyers. So if you're a first-time home buyer, again, right here, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square feet for $250,000. This one, 4-bed, 3-bath, again, kind of this Cape Cod version, 1,689 square feet, only $214,000. So very approachable for first-time home buyers. A lot of these homes are going to be 1920s era homes with porches and yards, but they're going to provide a lot of classic charm and livability. This one was built in 1907, a 3-bed, 2-bath for only $230,000. This Cape Cod was built in 1954, sold for $214,000. You can see it's a little charming front porch here, nice little yard, hardwood floors, wood burning fireplace. All this for $214,000. But a lot of the excitement that I have about here is this emerging small business scene. A lot of the development that is happening on this Hamilton Avenue corridor here, small businesses going in and a lot of community energy. And that's where I think you get a lot of that long-term upside, the potential here in College Hill because of this business energy that's really moving into the area. All right, guys, so if you can look past some of these name brand neighborhoods, Cincinnati's best value, is going to reside in these neighborhoods without the hype, but have really strong fundamentals. So places like Pleasant Ridge and Madisonville and College Hill, they've got these active growth corridors, and that's going to only benefit you, in terms of appreciation, in terms of long-term value in that neighborhood. And then you've got places like Mount Washington and Anderson Township, where you get that great proximity without all the additional hype and without the addition on the price tag. The key to all this when you're shopping is matching your lifestyle and the market fundamentals, and not just the marketing that you're finding online or the brand or the prestige of these different neighborhoods. And to be honest, guys, there is so much to love about Hyde Park and Oakley and Mount Lookout and Over the Rhine, these different neighborhoods. I'm not bashing them or saying don't ever buy there. I just want you to understand what you're getting for if you do buy there. I want to make sure you understand where your money is going to, and is there room for upside or not? Because the truth is, you might want that walkability. You might want that prestige. You might want the charm of Hyde Park Square. And I get it. It is wonderful and it's beautiful. At the same time, I'm wanting to show you these other neighborhoods that might be a little bit more affordable, where you're not sacrificing on all these great lifestyle amenities, but you're also not paying premium dollar. And that's really the goal of this channel here, guys. So whether you are looking to move to the area, or whether you're looking to invest in the area, or even if you're already living here and you're like, should I sell my property or not? What's going on with the market in my neighborhood? That's why I'm doing this channel. And that's why it's really important for you that you're reaching out to someone who understands these neighborhoods, who understands the market trends, so you can make a really smart decision with your money when it comes to your housing. Because the truth is, and I'm not just saying this, if you're working with a real estate agent who doesn't have a lot of experience, you might make a decision that costs you thousands of dollars that you'll regret in the years to come. But guys, at Team Sztanyo, we work so hard to help you not only make wise financial decisions, but our tagline here is to help you find your home and strengthen your family. So whatever the neighborhood is, whether it is overpriced or not, we care about you and your story and listening to what matters to you, why it's important to you, so that we can match you, with the best neighborhood and the best home. We love doing this. When people call us, when they reach out, when they're texting us or emailing us or getting that relocation guide I mentioned already, we're going to set up a phone call with you. It's a free consultation so we can just understand what's going on in your life, what are you looking for, and how can we help best match the right home, the right neighborhood for you and your family. Guys, that's my job, and that's what myself and the agents on my team get to do week in and week out, and we love being able to provide that service to you. So I appreciate you watching. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.